All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive. We've been exploring some really cool stuff lately. And remember how we were just talking about lists? You know, those collections of data that we can mess around with using commands like append, pop, and choice?
Yeah, lists are super useful.
Well, today we're going to see how some of those same ideas can actually be used to make our code interact with like shapes on the screen. And get this, our sources actually show us how to use code to figure out if a user clicks on a shape. And if so, which specific shape they clicked on. Pretty neat, right?
It is. It's like giving your program a sense of touch, being able to detect where the user is clicking and what they're interacting with.
So to do this, we've got this new tool to play with. It's called Hitist. And it's kind of like, imagine your code having these super sensitive fingers that can tell exactly what's underneath the mouse cursor.
Exactly. And the key thing is, Hitist doesn't just tell you if you hit something. It can actually tell you what you hit, or if you hit nothing at all.
Which, as we'll see, is super important.
Yeah.
And that nothing is represented by a special value called none.
Right, none. And understanding how to work with none is going to be crucial here. It's kind of like when you're working with lists and you try to pop something from an empty list, you get nothing back.
Oh, yeah. Good point. It's like trying to take something out of an empty box.
Exactly. So let's dive into how this all works.
All right, let's do it.
So think about it like this. You've got this screen, right? And you've got all these different shapes drawn on it. Circles, squares, triangles, whatever you like.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Now, when the user clicks somewhere on that screen, how do we figure out if they clicked on a shape, and if so, which one? Well, that's where group.hitist xy comes into play. It's like asking, hey, at these specific x and y coordinates, is there a shape there, and if so, what is it?
Okay, so the x and y are like the map coordinates of where the mouse clicked.
Precisely. So you feed those coordinates into group.hitist, and it looks at all the shapes you've got in a specific group. Now, what's really cool is if there are multiple shapes at those exact coordinates, it'll actually give you back the shape that's on top.
Oh, that makes sense. So like if I've got a blue square behind a red circle, and I click right in the middle where they both are, it'll tell me about the red circle because it's in front.
Exactly, because that's the one the user is directly interacting with. But here's the catch, and this is where that none value comes in. What if the user clicks somewhere on the screen where there aren't any shapes? Like, what if they click in an empty space?
Yeah. What happens then? Our program can't just, like, freeze up, right?
Right. It needs to give us some kind of answer, and that answer is none. It's basically saying, hey, I checked at those coordinates, and I didn't find any shapes in this particular group.
So none is like the code's way of saying, nope, nothing here, got it.
Exactly. And knowing how to deal with none is super important because, as we'll see, if you try to do something with none, like change its size or color, your program is going to crash.
Because it's like trying to paint a picture on a canvas that doesn't exist.
Right. It's like saying, hey, change the color of that nothing over there. It just doesn't make sense.
So how do we actually use Hitist in our code? Our first code example, called group.hitistdemo #1, actually gives us a great starting point. Let's take a look.
Sure. In this example, we start by creating a group of shapes. We've got 3 purple circles all lined up next to each other.
Okay, I see that.
Now, we've also got this special function called onMousePress. This function basically tells the program, hey, when the user clicks the mouse, do this.
And that this is where Hitist comes in.
Exactly. Inside the onMousePress function, the first thing we do is this. Target equals g.hitist.
Yeah.
Mouse y. So we're asking, hey, at the exact location where the mouse was clicked, is there a shape in the group G? And if so, store that shape in this variable called target.
And that target could be one of those purple circles, or it could be none if they clicked in an empty space.
Precisely. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The next line is an if statement. If target none. This is like saying, hey, only do the next thing if we actually clicked on a shape, meaning if target is not, none.
It's like a safety check to make sure we're not trying to work with nothing.
Exactly. And if that condition is true, meaning we did click on a shape, the next line of code, target.radius plus equals 10, will increase the radius of the circle we clicked on, making it bigger. So if you click on one of those purple circles, it'll grow.
That's so cool. It's like our code is actually responding to where we're clicking.
It is. But now think about what the example asks. What would happen if we didn't have that if target none check? What if we just went straight to try and change the radius?
Oh, right. If we didn't check and the user clicked in an empty space, target would be none, and then we'd be trying to change the radius of nothing.
Exactly. And as the text explains, that would make our program crash. It's like trying to access an element in a list that doesn't exist. You're going to get an error.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So that if target check is super important to make sure our program doesn't freak out. It's like putting up a fence to keep us from falling off a cliff.
I like that analogy. Now, let's look at the second code example, group.hitistdemo #2. This one shows us how we can actually do something different if the user clicks in an empty space.
Ooh, this is where it gets even more interactive.
So just like before, we start by checking if target = none. But this time, instead of just skipping over the code if it's true, we actually do something else.
And that something else is creating a brand new purple circle right where the user clicked.
Exactly. So now if you click on an existing circle, it gets bigger. But if you click in an empty space, a new circle pops up. It's like we're giving the user the power to create their own shapes.
This is so cool. I'm starting to see all the possibilities here. Now, there's one more thing I wanted to ask about. app.group.hitist. What's the difference between this and the regular g.hitist we were using before?
Well, it turns out that whenever you create shapes on the screen, they automatically get put into this default group called app.group. It's like the main container for all the stuff you've drawn.
Oh, so it's like the master folder on your computer where everything gets saved.
Exactly. So app.group.hitist works the same way as g.hitist, except it's looking within this main app.group instead of a specific group you created yourself.
And that's what the app.group.hitist demo shows us, right? We don't even create a separate group in that example.
Exactly. We just make the circles directly in the on-mouse press function, and they automatically become part of app.group. So when we use app.group.hitist, it can still find them and tell us if we clicked on them.
That's so clever. I'm really starting to see how all of this fits together. It's like we're building this whole system for managing our shapes and responding to the user's actions.
You got it. And this brings us to that last point about what happens if we don't add our new circles to any group.
Checkpoint 2.
Right. Now, in the app.group example, everything gets added to that main group automatically. But what if we were back in the g.hitist example and we made a new circle but forgot to use g.add to put it in the group G? What would happen then?
I'm guessing g.hitist wouldn't be able to see it because even though it's on the screen, it's not officially part of that group.
Precisely. It's like the circle is there, but it's invisible to g.hitist.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important to think about how you're organizing your shapes. You need to make sure they're in the right groups if you want to be able to interact with them using hitist.
Okay, so the key takeaway here is that hitist is this amazing tool for figuring out what the user's clicking on. And we need to be really mindful of that special none value to avoid errors and make our code do different things depending on whether a shape was clicked or not.
Exactly. And thinking back to what we learned about lists, it's kind of like how we need to be careful with indexes to make sure we're not trying to access elements that don't exist.
So for everyone listening, I challenge you to think about how this idea of checking for your work, none can be useful in other parts of your code. Maybe even when you're working with lists. Could you use it to prevent errors or make your program do something different based on whether an item is in your list or not?
It's a great question to ponder, and the best way to really understand this is to try it out for yourself, create some groups of shapes, play around with hitist, and see what kind of amazing interactive programs you can build.
That's right. Experiment, explore, and have fun with it. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you next time.